Attention, space travelers. All flights have been put in a holding pattern.
Alright, this is take one. Hopefully the only take. Not optimistic. Disneyland, California. The happiest place on Earth. As someone who has worked at the park, I have a lot, and I mean a lot, of opinions about just about every attraction in the park. And, frankly, I'm ready to express them. So, let's just jump into this. Let's get a tier list going of every single attraction in Disneyland. Now, I should throw in a caveat here. Let me say a few. 1, I will not be ranking Disneyland California Adventure. Maybe that's another video for another time, but today I just want to focus on Disneyland Park, so only thing in Disneyland itself. The other thing is I will not be talking about the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, or whatever it's called, as I have not been there since they updated it. I also will be talking about Splash Mountain because, frankly, I want to, and I really love that ride, and I have a lot of things to say about it, so I'm going to add that to the list, even though by the time this releases, it will be no longer with us. Even still, I also want to point out, I'm not going to be ranking Make Your Minnie's House, Donald's Boat, Fantasy Fair, or anything like that, because they're not attractions, in my mind. Not to say that they're bad, but they're more or less leading you to a meet and greet, more so than they are to tell a story. I'm already getting a lot of people to hate me. That's okay, because the last thing I want to point out is that this list that I'm going to be sharing with you right now is objective. So if you disagree with any of these points, I mean, that's on you. This is factual. This is absolutely the definitive tier list of every single ride here at Disneyland. And if you don't agree with it, it is you who are wrong. So before we begin our journey through Disneyland, I want to tell you a little bit about how we're going to do this. Rather than making a standard kind of tier list where maybe we'll go through all the rides alphabetically, I want to move through these rides as if we are moving through the park. In fact, we're going to start at the entrance gate, and then we're going to meander our way all the way through the entire park until we get to the end there. So please, come along with me. Why does this feel like one of those, like the Disney VHS? Do you guys have that? Where it's like the sing-along songs?
Today we're going to the happiest place on Earth. So sing along, everyone. We'll have some Disneyland fun.
Oh my gosh. I just threw myself into another stratosphere. Okay, so let's start right there at the beginning. We walk in through the entrance gate. The very first thing you see is that Mickey Mouse flower thing. But right on top of that, the Disneyland Railroad. If you were going to hook me up to some sort of heart rate monitor and you had me climb aboard the Disneyland Railroad, you would assume I'd be flatlining. And then suddenly at the end, beep boop. I don't know how this was hidden from me for so long, but did you know that there's this whole back in time dinosaur adventure at the Disneyland Railroad? Because I did not know that. I even worked at the park before I knew that that was a thing. Before I actually climbed aboard the train and I went around in a circle and I went, okay, this is kind of boring. And then once I got to the dinosaur bit, everything changed. Now, those who know me know that I love puppets. And let's be honest here. If we're going to make a Venn diagram of all the people who love puppets and all the people who love animatronics, it would just be a circle. So you can imagine my joy when I rode the Disneyland Railroad for the first time and found myself in this sea of dinosaur animatronics. And it tells like a whole story and everything. And I'm sitting there going, where the hell was this? Because as soon as you get on the railroad, you are primed for disappointment. Like, the narration is cool and it's a nice way to kind of get an understanding and a feel for kind of the different lands in the park, but you're like around that first turn, it's like you're going into like a parking garage. It's actually so not up to Disney standard, and it's crazy that this is the first attraction that you run into when you're in the park. I'll go ahead and say it. Disneyland Railroad, of every ride we've talked about so far, this has to be the first one. So, you know what? We're just going to go ahead. We're going to put it in like a B tier kind of space right away because, I mean... Okay, so next off, so we get off the Disneyland Railroad. And we want to, again, maximize our time there in the park today. So the first thing we're going to do is get off the railroad and we're going to go straight over to everyone's favorite ride, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. Now, I joke about Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, but I do appreciate some things about it. I do love the building that it's in. The Lincoln animatronic is also cool. The one thing that I don't love is... the attraction itself, because it's kind of a little bit of a... It's a bit much for any trip to Disneyland, right? We don't need to be talking about the Civil War while I'm watching Mickey Mouse run around next door. You know what I mean? It's I feel like Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln is not going to be long for this world. Because at least at Disney World, you've got the Hall of Presidents, which, you know, is constantly being updated and changed with the presidents, etc. And that kind of adds something to it. But Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln is really only holding on there because of the importance and significance of the Lincoln animatronic itself. And the animatronic is amazing. It is gorgeous. But unfortunately, really beyond the incredible animatronic and the beautiful building and the gift shop that's connected to it, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln pretty much misses the marks on everything I want out of a Disneyland attraction. It's also air conditioned, so that's going in for the books. So where are we going to put that? I can't believe I'm already starting to stress about this a little bit. And there's literally one other thing on there. I mean, I have to put the railroad above Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. What am I talking about? Of course I do. Hey, look at that, Disneyland Railroad. You at least beat out one other attraction. Okay. So after Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, this one, I don't know, I even feel kind of weird putting this on the list because it's not really something that you line up for usually. It's no one's favorite thing really, but the Main Street vehicles, I'm going to go ahead and loop those all together. They're fine, right? It's not something that I go out of my way to ride, but in terms of ambiance, they're pretty sick, right? Because for me, I don't get any value out of actually sitting there and traveling the block radius that is from Main Street down to the other end. I don't really get any value of being in those vehicles, but it's like if you go to a theme park and they make the giant roller coaster loop over the main pathway, that's kind of Disneyland's equivalent of it, I feel. Because you got these cars and they just kind of add in that kind of hometown sort of magical feeling to it, especially when you look down across Main Street and you see the castle there at the very, very end, but you still see these very old school cars going by. Again, it feels kind of weird to rank them as an attraction because they're almost like world building. To me, they're almost in the same camp as the Tapper Dans, right? So I'm going to rank these low, not because they're bad, but just because I don't really care about riding them, right? But I'm not going to put them in the bottom because they're just not something I want to ride, but I would hate it if they got rid of them. So I'm going to put them one step beneath Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. We'll just put it there. It feels pretty safe to do that. Now that we've landed here at the partner statue in our buggy or horse-drawn carriage or whatever, we are going to go hang a left and go straight off into Adventureland. That was cooler in my head. If you know Disneyland, you know that the absolute first thing we're going to do, we're going to stop and get a Dole Whip, obviously, and we're going to go to the first attraction there, which is Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room. presented by Dole. I love the Tiki Room. If I just talked about each of the animatronics in each of these rides, we would be here for another hour. So let's go ahead and cut that part out. Let's talk about what's really cool about the Tiki Room, because I think a lot of people really overlook this as a ride. Not only do you get that shade and AC that you really want on a hot day, like you would get from Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, but it's more of a Disneyland story than anything else. There is kind of an underlying kind of fear to it. This is something that Disney actually nails, and it's something I'm kind of worried that they're going to start shying away from in the future of their attractions. This could very well just be a singing bird show, but instead the Enchanted Tiki Room actually slowly comes more and more to life, because you start off with the birds, and then you start to add in like the singing flowers, and then the chandelier comes down, and then the all the walls and what look like decorations start singing, and then it gets more and more intense, and then thunder and lightning, and you are in the dark, and then you sing one last song to kind of mellow everyone back out. But it builds that intensity really well. The storytelling in the Tiki Room is, hold on, I have a picture of it. Look at that. The storytelling there in the Tiki Room is just something else. It's not only fun to goof around and sing along with the music, you know, on the sing-along parts, but it is also, I think, a really compelling story to be in the middle of. I might be going a little bit overboard on the Tiki Room, I'll be honest with you, but I personally love it to death, so I'm gonna put the Tiki Room, we'll put it here in B tier because I don't think it's quite an A tier attraction, but it's decidedly better than the railroad. So we're gonna move the railroad over a little bit here. Yeah, that feels good. And it's kind of interesting because you get out of the Tiki Room, and then immediately right next door is the Jungle Cruise. And it kind of feels like the momentum wants you to ride Jungle Cruise immediately after, but I wouldn't really advise it because it's another just super chill, sit around, see some cool animatronics kind of ride. And honestly, it's totally make or break depending on the skipper that you have. There is a pretty high bar for who they cast as skippers at Disneyland, or at least it feels like it. It really feels like everyone they put in that position is genuinely trying their hardest. I've been on it a few times where, you know, you're getting through the shift, the jokes aren't landing, which makes it kind of hard to sell your punchline. So I've been on a couple stinkers for sure, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it. In case you don't know, if you work at Disneyland, you're kind of stuck in the land that you're given. So when I worked there, I worked in Tomorrowland, so I could only learn Tomorrowland attractions. So I always wanted to get transferred over there because I really wanted to be a Jungle Cruise skipper, but that's how it is sometimes, I guess. Anyway, enough about that, enough about me. I like this as a concept, and it is really good at immersing you in this jungle. But Jungle Cruise, it's not a great ride. It sounds a little harsh, but it is kind of boring. If you've heard the jokes before, you're kind of hearing the exact same jokes, and many of them told in the exact same way. And then I also heard, I don't know if this is true, maybe I just didn't go, but I heard that they potentially aren't doing the Jingle Cruise anymore, their holiday version of the Jungle Cruise. So that would be heartbreaking to me. So I don't know. I want to say more about Jungle Cruise, but I'm not even a big boat kind of guy. You know, I love ride vehicles, but those boats don't really inspire me. Jungle Cruise, we're gonna go ahead and put that in C tier, but we're gonna put it above Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. All right. So far, this list feels good. Feels fair. I mean, it does feel harsh that I'm putting it. It's some people's absolutely favorite ride, and like I said, even I want to be a Jungle Cruise skipper one day, but not because it's really a fantastic attraction. So after Jungle Cruise, we move right on down the pathway, immediately next door to Jungle Cruise. Adventureland is a really compact land. It feels so big and open when you're in it, but it's really just this tight little corner, this little walkway that you hit Tiki Room, then you hit Jungle Cruise, and then guess what? Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye. Well, the Temple of the Broken Ride, am I right, Jungle Cruise skippers? Hire me. Let's really dig into Indiana Jones, because I know that a lot of people, they're going to cite this as their favorite ride at Disneyland. And honestly, I cannot disagree. That ride is awesome. Not only is it one of the few rides in the park that actually has a little bit of a thrill factor to it, but it genuinely puts you in an Indiana Jones movie, which is really hard to do, because in order to do that, you would need to build these massive extravagant sets, and you would need to have fire going off here, and you would need to be dodging arrow traps and dealing with snakes, and guess what? All of those things are in the ride. It's crazy. And then the ride vehicle that they put you in, it is genuinely life-changing, because it feels like you're in a Jeep. When you're moving around in it, it doesn't feel like, this is a ride system. It genuinely feels like they strapped you into a Jeep and you are going around every bump and turn. And it really hits those turns much harder and more thrilling than you expect it to. So I mean, it is not my personal favorite ride at Disneyland. We'll get there. But it is definitely one of the best that Disney has ever put out there. Even the line for Indiana Jones is incredible. The only other line that rivals it is Roger Rabbit, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But you walk straight down into this very scary tunnel system, and it feels like you're just going deeper and deeper and deeper underground. It is just so cool. And I mean, the traps don't really work anymore, but it used to be like, don't pull this rope or don't hit this, and the spikes would come down. You know, it is just that level of immersion and fun. Even the spiel video that they have, which just tells you, hey, make sure you put your hats, glasses, bags underneath your seat, in that case, in the pouch in front of you. Even that part of the ride is fun to watch. I actually look forward to watching that. So, I mean, we're going to put this attraction in S tier, right? The only tiniest little thing that I don't like about it, and it does not, we're talking about the ride itself, so this doesn't even necessarily count against it, but it does break down a lot, and most of the effects usually don't work. If you go on a day to Disneyland and every single effect is working in Indiana Jones, it's like you just played a royal flush in poker or something. It's incredible. I'm sure. I don't know. I've never experienced it. Should I talk about Tarzan's treehouse? It's fine. It was fine. I don't know. I haven't been on the Swiss Family Robinson thing yet, so I couldn't tell you about that. So in its place, we're going to put Tarzan's treehouse. It's honestly, it's not interesting to walk through as much as I would like it to be, because it's just stagnant figures as you're walking through, and kids are always running around, and yeah, which is fine. You know, I'm glad they're having fun, but there's just so many other cool things at Disneyland. I'm not going to put it in E tier, because there's worse things at Disneyland. But even worse, not only does Tarzan's treehouse suck, but like the tree is right in the middle of the walkway. It is so obnoxious. It actually obscures some of the view that you get for New Orleans Square. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Tarzan's treehouse, I'd love to put you anywhere but at the bottom, especially because now it's a defunct thing. But yeah, dude, we're just gonna put you down in D tier, potentially E tier. We might move down there. I don't know just yet. Well, that's gonna wrap up Adventureland. So the next stop on our journey is New Orleans Square. This outfit doesn't even make sense. This is just a black shirt and a baseball hat. Straight up, I was racking my brain, going through my entire wardrobe to try to find anything that was either piratey or New Orleans-y or Haunted Mansion-y, and I got nothing. So I'm wearing a black shirt and a hat that says dead inside. That's what we get. Maybe if I rolled up the sleeves. So, first stop here on our journey is another heavy hitter is Pirates of the Caribbean. Right? Oh my gosh, that's such a good ride. It does lack a little bit in terms of theming for the line and the building leading into it. It doesn't really... Man, there's so much you can do with like a line moving into a pirate's like cove area. But they don't do any of it. It's just like a nice looking building. But, of course, no surprise here. Obviously, the ride inside the building is one of the Disney greats, one of the best to ever do it, still holds up to this day. Then the moment that you get into the Pirate Cove, I go, oh my gosh, I'm a pirate. There's nothing else but piracy for me from this point on. I'm a pirate. You spend so much of the beginning of the ride just sort of slowly getting immersed into the world. It's like it's spoon feeding you into suspending your disbelief here. Before they really show you any major animatronics, they want you to just sit and they want you to see, oh look, it's a little crab pinching, and hey look, it's a little seagull. And then you see the scene where there's the pirate in the at the ship's wheel with the storm happening behind it, and then immediately the world starts to come to life, and then you find yourself in between a pirate ship and a castle. I don't know, what is it called? A port, a big stony a rock, like a no pirate go away zone. What's most important is they're shooting at each other with cannons, and they have little explosions going off in the water next to you, so it feels like you're in the middle of a crossfire, which is amazing. So good, man. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna give it another S.
Wow!
Right? Is that too generous? Because obviously there's so many fantastic rides. It's not too generous. This is people's favorite ride for a reason. It's one of my favorites. The only thing that's lacking are the things outside of the ride itself. Okay, what's next? Oh my gosh, really? If we were to go immediately from Pirates of the Caribbean and just continue on that path that we're walking down right there, you know what we're gonna run right into? The Haunted Mansion. Okay. The Haunted Mansion is one of the best. I love that I have started off like the last three with, this ride is one of the best things that Disney's ever made. But it is so true, right? When I was a kid, I was too scared to go in haunted houses. Like even at the like at fairs and stuff like that where they have those little pop-up haunted houses, I was too scared to go in those. Disney somehow took that concept, elevated it, and made it not too scary for kids. There's a few things in there that I feel like I'm surprised that kids handle as well as they do, but it's so well done. Obviously, everything about the Haunted Mansion is amazing. I'm not gonna come out here with any hot takes. Like I said, this is an objective list, all right? Everyone agrees with me. Everyone. Not a single person disagrees with me on this list. Is this what people do? They just bait their commenters into yelling at you? There's a lot of great things from this ride. Just the layout of the track is super fun. The way it takes you deeper and deeper into the mansion, has a whole finale song. It hadn't been connected to a movie or anything. It was just this really bizarro mansion that gets weirder and weirder as you go, as the ghosts get more and more comfortable with you as you're going through it. It's incredible. And something else I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about how awesome the layout of the line is on the outside. It's not fun to walk through, but it's so strange because rather than having it loop back on itself, just back and forth, it looks like that's what it does, but it cuts you forward and then you go over and you go back and back and back and then you go forward again and then go back. And it's so off-putting. It feels like you are going in a circle. And as much as no one likes standing in lines, I probably enjoy it more than the average person, I will give you that. I can't help but marvel at just the design of the layout of that line because you really never know how far you are from the end of it. Does anyone care about this, or is it just me? Okay, just me? Alright, another quick tangent. I had just started working there. I had been working there for about a month, and there was a huge competition at my attraction. And it just so happened that I was placed on the winning team, and the winning team got to take a walking tour of the Haunted Mansion, a guided tour with a host there. I forget his name, but he's been there forever, and he was absolutely fantastic. But it was such a magical experience to actually get to, I don't know, set foot walking down those halls, to look down the endless hallway and you know, just so many cool things. I just want to touch everything. Obviously, we weren't allowed to touch anything, but like the fact that I could get closer to it was so cool. The last thing that we did on the tour is he had us lay down in the stretching room as he rose it up to the ceiling and told us a ghost story of something he experienced there at the parks. That was cool. Anyway, I have a huge connection to this ride. Everyone loves this ride. This is an easy S tier. It's going above Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm actually going to put it above Indiana Jones as well. Man, it is going to be a tough fight for the top here. If I ever make a sequel to this with like a walking tour and review of California Adventure, you're going to notice it's going to be like, whoa, so we got the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then we got the web slingers, and then we've got the Cars ride, and then we've got Mater's Junkyard Jamboree. And actually, I kind of like Mater's Junkyard. But my point is, this park is goated, and it has so many fantastic rides. If you want to go on all the best rides, just go left. Anyway, that's the end of New Orleans Square, so let's move on to... It's Critter Country, y'all! I scared my cat. I'm sorry. I have to do it again, though, because you ruined the take. It's Critter Country, y'all! Critter Country doesn't have a lot going for it, so bear with me here. We gotta address the elephant in the room. Splash Mountain. Splash Mountain used to be my favorite ride in all of Disneyland. Worse than just removing all of Splash Mountain, they're changing the theming of it, and I do really like Princess and the Frog as a movie, but I do have some degree of faith in Disneyland Imagineers, but they already took away Tower of Terror from me. The fact that they're trying to take away one of my other favorite rides breaks my freaking heart. It probably will do it justice, and it probably will be fun, but there is a really timeless feeling to that ride. It just feels like this very unique and timeless kind of ride, and then they're slapping the princess on it, which is just hurtful. It's taken them like a decade or something to give Tiana anything, so they made like Tiana's Place in or is it Tiana's Place or is it Tiana's Palace? They put that in New Orleans Square. Great idea, right? Because she is from New Orleans and we already have all these great restaurants there. It makes perfect sense to me. So good for them for doing that. Bad for them for going to Critter Country. By the way, not in New Orleans Square. Even the outside facade of the building does not align with the bayou vibe of the movie. But I spent so much time talking about a ride that I don't know anything about. Let's talk about the actual ride of Splash Mountain. Okay, first of all, it's my favorite smell at Disneyland. There's something about that chlorine and mildew that just does it for me. It's got just the right amount of thrills. It's got a blind drop, which is terrifying. They don't warn you about that at all. When you're a kid, you're just like, oh my gosh, this is the end of life. And then you realize, oh no, that wasn't even the big drop. The big drop is coming later. It's got that spectacle from the outside. It's such an iconic part of the Disneyland skyline, right? It's one of the great mountains of Disneyland. And you get to watch people come down the mountain into a thorn patch. And it's a log flume, which feels so cool. Wow. It is a perfect attraction. I wouldn't change anything about it. Now, one could argue that because it is a water ride, maybe you don't like getting wet, or maybe it does not elevate a cold day. It might not be your first choice on a cold day, but let me raise you, it's almost better on a cold day. There is some sense of camaraderie in going through a water ride on a freezing cold day and being soaking wet, and it just adds to like the childhood wonder that Disneyland just pulls out of all of us, right? It's like Disney allows you to just like be a kid for a day, right? And so how often in your life do you get to make such a bad choice? Is this a good argument? Probably not, but Splash Mountain has always been my favorite, and now it's no longer with us, so I probably won't be able to put it up there for long, but for right now, I'm gonna go ahead and take Splash Mountain and move it right up to the top. Alright, next up, the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Okay, this ride sucks for a lot of reasons, not the least of which being that it is a motion sickness nightmare where it moves around like this. Even the big scene, the Heffalumps and Woozles scene where you go into the dream sequence, which is cool the way it brings you into it, it just is really underwhelming. It's just like a big room that has a lot of flat things on the wall. I like the storm scene. I think the storm scene is good. Okay, so I've been a little harsh, but it is bad. Right? It is bad. There's a reason that it basically never has a line. I'm gonna put it above Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. Did I put Jungle Cruise in C tier? Man, I don't even know who I am anymore. Okay, Jungle Cruise is definitely better than the Disneyland Railroad. I don't like it as much as I like the Tiki Room, but it's certainly better than the Disneyland Railroad. What was I thinking? Okay, but let's go and move ourselves across the galaxy here and move right into Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Fun fact, when I was working at the parks, I had ridden the Disneyland Railroad, and you know how it used to be just a complete circle, and then they had to add in a little bit of a left bank so that it could properly go into Galaxy's Edge as well. Well, I got to go to the cast member preview for that, and I don't know if every car was doing this before, because there was a long line even for the cast members to ride it, but as soon as our car started to make that left embankment, then the entire car started chanting, left turn, left turn, left turn, left turn, and everyone lost their mind as it slowly coasted around the slight left turn. What a time to be alive. On our little tour here, we are now about to hit probably the most impressive Disneyland ride of all time. I don't think anyone's going to argue with me on that. It may not be your favorite, it's certainly not mine, but it is genuinely one of the most immersive and most impressive things that Disney's ever made, which, of course, I'm talking about Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. If you don't know about this ride, this is a don't look it up kind of ride. go experience it because it will genuinely blow your mind. I don't want to spoil this part for you, but I need to talk about it because it is my favorite part of the ride. So cut away for like 30 seconds if you don't want to be spoiled here. You get into what you assume is going to be the pre-show room, and then you're brought into a little spaceship, and then somehow that spaceship takes you into space, and a cast member dressed in a First Order uniform escorts you into a prison cell. That is next level. I mean, are we really gonna put yet another S tier in here? I promise you, I don't think that every ride at Disneyland is an S tier ride. I don't know what to tell you, man. It's an S tier ride, and it's my lowest on the S tiers, but it is definitely an S tier ride. I can't make an argument against it. What am I supposed to do here? Then we've got one more ride there in Galaxy's Edge, and I've never really quite understood this ride, which is the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run ride. First of all, the name of the ride, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, is so nothing to me. It feels fake, and it is cool, but it's not amazing. When you're in it, it is very immersive, and I love that everyone has like different jobs. I personally do really love being the engineer because I'm a simple man, and if you give me a wall of buttons and you say just hit the buttons as they light up, I will do that literally all day. And they have some really nice, good clicking buttons on that ride. Really cool. The second best position to be is to be the right pilot. I think it's the right pilot because when you jump into hyperspace, you actually get to pull the lever that makes that happen, which is so cool. That said, the actual line itself, it feels like a warehouse. I don't really want to be in a warehouse, but I guess it does feel like a warehouse. You're given your role, and then you're told to wait in what is basically the hangout room of the Millennium Falcon, which looks very impressive and it looks really cool, but you're just like standing around, and which just gives you way too much time to get into arguments about who's going to be doing what and who should be in what position. It's just not cool to me. It stresses me out. All right, I'm so happy that we run into this, because while this is a good ride, this isn't a great ride. So we can comfortably put this one, I would say, it's one step beneath Jungle Cruise, but one step above the Disneyland Railroad. The Railroad is weirdly like the center point for this, which I didn't expect because I don't really like the Railroad, but I don't hate the Railroad either. So maybe it's perfect actually being right there in the middle of this list. Interesting. Wow, these lands do not have a lot of attractions in them. Keep bringing out these cool jackets, and I don't even get to use them. So, in we go to Frontierland, I guess. Partner, I don't know why I want to put on a southern drawl when I'm in here, but the first ride in Frontierland is, of course, I'm going to stop doing that, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. This might be the opinion that gets me killed. I don't love this attraction. It's not very thrilling for a roller coaster, and the theming is really basic and not all that exciting. The only thing I really love about it is the sound of the ride, especially when you're going through the caves. I think that sounds really cool, the way it echoes in there, but it's just kind of uninspired. And I know that that's heresy because it's an iconic ride, but what does it really do? for a roller coaster, it doesn't act like it. You know, it doesn't really have any drops. So it does have like a couple like wee. It is what it is. And what it is fine. It's kind of thrilling. If you're gonna ask me to wait an hour to get on this ride, I'm probably just gonna not do it. It is a very competent ride. So I'm not gonna put it below the threshold, right? And the fact that anyone says that this is anywhere close to the quality level of Haunted Mansion, Splash Mountain, Indiana Jones, Pirates of the Caribbean rides, those S tier rides, man, you must have a really, really low tolerance for excitement, because it does not excite at all. Much to my chagrin, because I would love to love it, I'm gonna give Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, I'm gonna put it in C tier. Again, this is a definitive and non-disputable list, so I don't want to hear it. This is done by science. Okay, I am just the messenger. Don't hurt me, please don't hurt me. There's really only one other attraction that's here in Frontierland, and again, I almost don't want to call it an attraction. It is exactly how I feel about the Main Street vehicles. If you are walking through Frontierland or New Orleans Square and you see the big boats going by, you know, the Columbia and the Mark Twain River boats, when you see them going by, it really adds to the feeling of the place. But actually being on them is not amazing. You know, it's like a Ferris wheel or something, right? It's not about being on the Ferris wheel. It's that you see this big thing moving and you go, wow, look at that thing move. Isn't it amazing that thing moves? So I'm just gonna wrap Mark Twain Riverboat and the Columbia there together into one of them. I think that's fair to do. And yeah, I'm just gonna put them. I'll put them a step above the Main Street vehicles because they've never gotten in my way. Should I put the Tom Sawyer Island on here too? It's bad and I don't like it. So, because it's so annoying to be on that little boat and move across the way. It's a fine adventure place for the kids to go, I guess. But as I've shown in making this list, I don't care about what the kids want at all. So... Oh my gosh, looking at this list has also made me realize, in addition to the little boat that takes you to the island, there's also the canoes. Can we just put the canoes in the last ranking? Obviously the canoes suck. This one, shout out to my sister, who's the only person I've ever heard talk positively about the canoes. I don't think she's ever even ridden them, but it's just work out there, okay? The canoes suck, and so does the little raft to Tom Sawyer Island. No canoes, no nothing. That is all E-tier shenanigans. Worst thing ever. Hate it. Don't even like how they look. It feels like there's more in Frontierland, but and there's like that one show there, and there's some shops, and there's the shooting gallery, but I'm not gonna count the shooting gallery. Come on. You're better than that, Disney. We're not going to put that on this list, because how is the shooting gallery going to compete with Rise of the Resistance? I don't know. The worst thing ever. Which brings us, of course, to the most densely populated part of Disneyland, which is, of course, Fantasyland, baby! I had to raid my girlfriend's closet to find something Fantasyland related. Alright, well, this is mostly going to be kind of a lightning round, because I have some strong opinions about some of these attractions here, but for the most part, they all kind of fit together. We're taking a walking tour here, so from Frontierland, we take that little side passage right through Fantasy Fair, and then we arrive into the Fantasyland area. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do the Sleeping Beauty Castle walkthrough. Again, not really a full attraction here at Disneyland, but certainly worth doing. I'm gonna go ahead and put the castle walkthrough. I'm gonna put beneath Winnie the Pooh, above Great Moments of Mr. Lincoln. I think it's a cool way to tell the story. It does feel like you're walking through a whole castle. It's not super immersive because the majority of the storytelling is told through actual text, which does take you out of it. But there's some cool shadow boxes, some cool effects. I do enjoy walking through it, but it's over in like 30 seconds. And it really is just, it's almost more of a Disney secret that exists to me than it does like a thing that you go do. So, but I won't ever say no. Okay, so we after going through the castle, we're gonna make our first stop there on the left-hand side at the Snow White's Enchanted Wish, which has been a big step down. Let's be honest, it's a huge step down from Snow White's Scary Adventure, albeit the effects are really good. It was more fun to have this psychotic, scary ride in the middle of Disneyland. Also, can I just say as a caveat for everything in Fantasyland, at least all of the dark rides, worst lines in Disneyland, bar none. The music is nice, but it is hot. There's no shade, and if it is shade, it's claustrophobic and it feels muggy. It's truly terrible. But Snow White's Enchanted Wish, I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and put it above Millennium Falcon. Yeah, that feels right to me. But I know so many people are going to be mad about the Millennium Falcon thing, and I just realized that. Pinocchio's Daring Journey is next, and I don't have too much to say about it, except it is a really, really cool experience. I wish I could ride it every day. It is so neat. It is kind of a little scary though, isn't it? Anyone ever notice? The two moments that really stand out are when you get trapped in the cage and he like lifts up the cage. He's like this giant man lifting up a cage that you are going into, and then also the Monstro animatronic that like really it does a masterful job of just taking over your entire sight line. The lightning flashes when it's happening is super cool, and then you move right into the blue fairy scene, and they use the Pepper's ghost, so she just like vanishes out of nowhere. Super cool. Yeah, definitely really, really, really like that ride. Maybe not as much as Jungle Cruise, but definitely more than Snow White's Scary Adventure. Okay, so we get out of Pinocchio's Daring Journey. We could jump across the way, but let's take a little detour here. First, we've got the carousel. King Arthur's carousel. First of all, it's weird that it's King Arthur's carousel. The only thing that makes it King Arthur based is that there is a sword in the stone in front of it. It almost feels more like Mary Poppins carousel than anything else, but Mary Poppins isn't even like a Fantasyland thing, even though that's where she hangs out. It's weird. Anyway, I'm going crazy talking about this carousel. It's a carousel, man. It is set dressing more than anything else. It is really in the way, but it is nice. I'm going to go ahead and put it beneath the Main Street vehicles. Is that fair? Maybe. Okay, I got to be really careful how I say this, because my girlfriend also was a ride operator at Disneyland, and she operated Casey Jr., and I am of the opinion that Casey Jr. is some people's ride of choice. However, it's not my fault, but I have to go with the consensus that this ride sucks. And it's the worst train in the park, and it's really got nothing good going for it. You can't even, like, you got, like, the miniatures, but those are connected to the storybook canal more than anything else. Again, but this is not me. That's what everyone else is saying. I personally love it. So it's with a heavy heart that I have to put it in D tier above Tarzan's Treehouse. Again, not my fault. Okay, but let's go ahead and move on past that one to our last detour ride here, which is of course Dumbo. It goes in a circle, doesn't it? D tier. Wow, this whole land is so compact. They really just they're like, we want to make just a ton of dark rides in this one tight little area, don't we? Now let's go ahead and move right on to Peter Pan's Flight. This is also, joking aside, this is going to be a controversial one because I know the line for this ride is always so very long. I've only ridden it maybe 3 times. I've been to Disneyland hundreds of times, but every time that I see the line, I'm sorry, but it scares me away because I'm not waiting 45 minutes to an hour to ride this short minute-long dark ride. It's not the ride's fault. I really should give this a more fair shake, right? Because the ride itself is really good. Man, this sucks because I personally don't want to take the time to wait for it, but if it was a walk-on, I would love it. I have to be honest with myself here. So I'm going to put it in here. I'm gonna put it right above Pinocchio. Yeah? Are we still happy there? That feels good to me. That feels right. Yeah, let's put it there. And I do really like the flying over the miniatures. That's really cool. And I like that it's a dark ride that isn't just on a normal track. You're hanging, so it has like a swinging thing. That's really neat. And the way it goes through the ship, I think, is cool. Yeah, you know what? Maybe that is a good ride. Maybe it is. Oh, right. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It really traumatized me a lot as a child, and I remember going home and crying because of it, but also getting fixated on it to the point that I actually really wanted to recreate it. So I tried to make it in my driveway with a skateboard and some cardboard boxes, and I think that's about as far as I got in terms of building the ride. But in my mind, it has this very strong connection to me. So this might be the only one of these dark rides that I'm gonna throw above Jungle Cruise. I'm gonna put it above Tiki Room. I think we got a front runner here for the B tier. I know this is a crazy pick. No, I mean it's an objectively correct pick, right? Yeah, I love it. I think that it's got a really fun theming. I like the chaotic nature of it. I like the way it uses the effects. I like the story that it tells. I love how fast-paced it is. That ride is like a shot of adrenaline. I love just watching people's reactions when they riding it for the very first time, because they don't know how to react afterwards. But I think it's it's fine wine. The more you ride it, the more you go, this ride actually rules. So yeah, we're going top of B tier for that one. Okay, and then the very last of our classics attractions here is Alice in Wonderland. It is interesting. It's, the other ones are Mr. Toad's Wild Ride or Peter Pan's Flight or the Pinocchio's Daring Journey. But this one is just called Alice in Wonderland and it's separate from the other rides. And it does attempt to tell the entire story of Alice in Wonderland lightning fast. And I would say it pretty much succeeds. It also struggles from having a very long queue, so you have to wait for it for a very long time if you're going to ride it. But it also has multiple layers. Actually, growing up, Alice in Wonderland was my favorite media thing. Oh my gosh. How have I not made a video about this yet? About all the different Alice in Wonderland media that has impacted my life personally, from obviously the Disney movie to the book to American McGee's Alice and Alice Madness Returns, I love Alice in Wonderland. So for me, experiencing these stories and going through the Toogly Woods and seeing the Queen of Hearts in person was really impactful to me and meaningful. And after they added in all the screens, I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to take it down a peg because it's not going to be as practical, but it actually super elevated it because they have a ton of practical, but they also have the screens. So, I mean, Alice in Wonderland, it's a fantastic attraction. This is tough, man. This is getting real tough. I'm gonna still keep it in B tier, but I think, yeah, let's put it one step above Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It's still just not quite. I know we haven't put anything in A tier yet, but I see the rides. I don't know why I thought that this wasn't going to be the longest video I've ever made. For some reason, I thought that I would just fly through this. What, am I stupid or something? Anyway, there's one last attraction in Fantasyland here, which is, of course, Mad Tea Party. It's another set dressing thing to me. But it's set dressing that's really inconvenient and in the way. I think the ride is kind of messy, at least by Disney standards, because you're just kind of sitting in teacups and it's playing the same exact song over and over and over again. I'm going to kind of hit you with a, maybe this is controversial, maybe this isn't, but I think I have to put the Mad Tea Party in C tier. Yeah, and I think I have to put them just above King Arthur's Carousel. Again, I love Alice in Wonderland, so it hurts to have to do this. This is how you know that I'm being truthful in this list. I don't want to have to put this all the way down there in C tier, but it's just, it makes you sick. It doesn't look all that great. The music gets really annoying really fast. It doesn't do a great job elevating the theme. Maybe the only things I like about it are the colors and the narration. I think it's very charming to have Alice go, please sit inside the teacups, blah, 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 blah. Okay, is that it? Thank God. Oh my gosh, there are so many rides. I'm sorry, attractions in Fantasyland. And most of them are kind of in the middle of the road. We got through it though. So, off, of course, into... I don't think that works. Off to that we just gave them there. To Toontown! I mean, this is half-assing it even for me. What do you wear for Toontown? I don't know. Don't look at me while I'm doing this one, okay? We'll get through this together. Starting off, Gadget's Go Coaster. It's a bad roller coaster. It's a roller coaster designed for kids. Its theming sucks. I think if the roller coaster kind of like went around Toontown a little bit, it would be kind of fun. But I think at this point I'm even too big to ride it. So I have a personal vendetta against it. I don't have a lot to say about this attraction. We're gonna go ahead and just, I'm gonna put it in D tier. And I'm making no apologies for this. It's going beneath Dumbo. Maybe, you know what? It's going beneath Tarzan's Treehouse. Let's talk about the other. Let's talk about the real attractions though in Toontown. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. This is the latest attraction as of the recording of this video that they've added here into the park, and it is incredible. Really, really great. The pre-show is a little on the long side. Because you have to watch a full, like, I think it's like a minute, maybe a minute and a half long Mickey Mouse cartoon, which it feels excessive. But the ending of the pre-show really caught me by surprise and really just made me go, oh my gosh, this is some Disneyland magic going on here. I do like walking through, like, the, into the lobby. The line moves so fast. Why am I wearing this, dude? Should I just wear the tie? Is this a thing? It feels so naked with the tie. Let's just wear the tie, okay? Don't stop judging me. You make the video next time, okay? The ride itself is a masterful use of the trackless ride system. When I first got on board, I didn't know it was a trackless ride system. The train comes around to the station in a really normal train kind of way, and then as soon as it breaks apart into sections and starts spinning around, it's really, really cool. And I will say, I was so impressed when you go in one scene and then the scene behind you changes and then you flip around and you're like in a different scene. It's really, really cool. The Nothing Can Stop Us Now is also great. It's really catchy. It's fun. It's a bop, no doubt. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It's fun. It's just it's a grand old time. I wouldn't say it's one of the greats. For me personally, I wouldn't rank it up here in S tier. However, I will go so far as to put it in A. We finally have something to put in A tier. Are you proud of me? We're almost through the entire park. Okay, and exiting out of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, we're gonna go straight next door to Roger Rabbit's Toontown Spin. You're gonna laugh at me. This is, I think, gonna be exactly another A tier ride. One, like I said earlier, this ride has one of the best lines in all of Disney. It's constantly interesting and fun to look at, and it takes you into the world immediately. As soon as you get in there, there's always 10 things that you can look at in the line. It's just neat, isn't it? I mean, I love the Roger Rabbit. Why do I keep saying Roger Rabbit? I really love the Roger Rabbit movie, and this does a great job of just putting you in the world. It doesn't do a phenomenal job of explaining exactly what's going on in this story. Because you control the car that you're in, you get to control what you're interested in, if you know what I mean. I mean, I can't really say much negative about the ride. The only thing I could really say is that it doesn't wow me when I ride it. So let's call it what it is, call it an A. Is Roger Rabbit better or worse than Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway? Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway has the recency bias, but Roger Rabbit has the nostalgia factor. I think I'm gonna go one step beneath Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, because that is a really good ride. Yeah, Roger Rabbit is just not better. Yeah, it's a close one. I will say that is a close ass race. We gotta call it what it is. Let's just call it what it is then. Let's do it. You know what? Let's do it. All right. It's a small world. After all, it's a small world. After all. A lot of Disneyland fans, Disneyland historians, Disneyland people are going to say that It's a Small World is a really great ride. And they're kind of wrong about that. It is a very long ride, but it is just kind of bleh, isn't it? I mean, artistically, it's got a lot of significance, and the design for it is really cool. Shout out to Mary Blair. We see you, and you are a marvel, right? We all love her. And the sightline for it, that the whole like castle thing is really neat and really beautiful. It's just riding it that sucks. It's worse than like one of the Mark Twain or the Main Street vehicles, because it's actively a bad experience to ride it. Now, would I be pissed if they got rid of it? Hell yes, I would. But just because it's significant doesn't mean that I want to be part of it. You know what I mean? It's like watching a movie that was really important at the time but does not hold up anymore. It's like that. I mean, where in the world am I going to put Small World? Well, let's look at this objectively. Okay? Does it feel like an S rank? No. Not A. Not B. It kind of, let me say it out loud. It's a Small World is a C tier attraction. That felt right. And let's put it above Mad Tea Party. Matterhorn is technically part of Fantasyland. Hold on, let me get back in my Fantasyland. Oy, ay, 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 ay. You see what I do? I do all of this for you. So, back here in Fantasyland, we need to talk about the Matterhorn bobsleds, which we probably should have talked about earlier, but to be honest, I forgot about it. The theming for this ride, you've got a big-ass mountain, which is doing a lot of the theming for you, and you've got basically a flat line where you listen to some polka music. And listen to the Matterhorn bobsled riders spiel, which is really annoying. The ride itself is so immersive and so cool, man. It's one of those greats. It's a classic Disneyland attraction that they have not tried to add any sort of weird IP to at all, which I am personally shocked that they somehow made a Jungle Cruise movie before they made a Matterhorn movie. You watch. Next summer, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is Harold from the Matterhorn. But the ride is really scary, which is very surprising for a Disneyland attraction, because you go immediately into the mountain, and then you look through the ice and you see the Yeti, and the sound design is really, really good. Sometimes it's really quiet, sometimes it's loud as you're pulling through the corners, and then you come face to face with the Yeti again. It's really intense. It's really a strong ride. It's got that weird water element at the end, which is interesting. And then, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say it hurts like hell to ride. So, as much as it does a lot of cool things and does make me excited, it's the ride that I like to end my Disneyland day with, because I'm not walking around the rest of the day with that back pain. So I'm going to go ahead and just make it simple and say that is an A-tier attraction that I really, really enjoy riding. I think it's you have to be there. It's impossible to describe why a roller coaster is fun to ride, but both sides of the track are really fun to ride. Even if they are totally different experiences, both of them are fun, equally fun for different reasons. I'm even going to put it right above Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I'm not afraid. You can't hurt me. There is but one thing left before we leave all of this behind, and that is, of course, Tomorrowland, the land of the future, everyone's favorite land. The land's not great. It's definitely the land that is in the most need of some kind of refurb, but this is not a review of all of the lands of Disneyland. This is a review of the attractions. So let's talk about the attractions. Finding Nemo's Undersea Voyage. This ride is claustrophobic, is not improved with the screens, etc. It isn't fun to ride at all. I think it's the kind of ride that you need to ride once to get a feel for it, and you will know whether or not you like it. And most people, I would say, walk away from it saying, that is just not for me. I think it's cool that Disney took a risk and they said, what if we made a submarine ride in our park? And they did pull it off. It does feel like you're going underwater, especially because they have those bubble effects that go past your windows, so it really feels like you're going deep underwater, but it's lacking a lot. And it's also claustrophobic. I don't know. It just doesn't quite work for me. I'll be on there. There's nothing I love about it, and it actively makes me feel claustrophobic while I'm in there. So let's put Nemo far, far down the list. I'm looking at this list right now of all these amazing attractions, and Finding Nemo's the submarine ride is not one of them. I'm going to put it down here in D tier, and I'm going to put it just below Casey Jr. Hey, look at that! Yeah, that's right. That's where it belongs. I don't really have strong opinions about this. I know a lot of people that operate the Disneyland monorail, and they love it. But it really is just a transportation system. At least the Disneyland train has a story there at the end, but it's kind of hard to put it anywhere but with the other set dressing things. It does actually have a very practical use. I think I'm going crazy because this is hours long at this point. I've probably cut it down. God, I hope I've cut this down a little bit, but I've literally been going for about 3 hours now. Where are we gonna put it? Again, yeah, it's just got to go with the other transportation, but definitely at the lowest end of the transportation. So let's put it beneath the main street vehicles. Sorry. Speaking of sorry, not sorry, Autopia. Does anyone like Autopia? Come into the comments. Fight me. Hit me up in the comments if you are a fan of Autopia. Not in concept. So I know people that love the idea of Autopia, but I have never once been with a group of people that said, man, I really want to do Autopia. It's kind of hard to drive those cars, and you're stuck on a rail, so you're just kind of ding, ding, ding. There's no benefit to this ride. Is there anything good about it? It's hot. If you're looking to get a tan, it's probably pretty good. You know what? No. There's that weird little robot man that's hanging out on the track. He's a nice man. He's a nice little dude. It's going in E tier. Oof. Yeah. There's nothing good about it. What am I supposed to do if there's nothing good about it? I do like it more than the canoes. Remember how we had that long streak of the S tier rides right at the very beginning of this video? Well, now we are getting into my least favorite rides. I mean, Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters is so bad. It's the worst dark ride. You got like the blasters or whatever, but they're not super responsive, and the scenes that you're going through are not cool and exciting. It feels so much like a carnival. And then when they added in the Toy Story Midway Mania, it just does this, but way better. The worst thing is, you go through this terribly themed line that does not set the tone or the feeling of the ride at all. You go through it where the blasters don't feel good to use, and then it takes an on-ride photo of you, but the picture is like so zoomed out. It doesn't like fit right, and no one's ever smiling in those pictures because everyone's going choo 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 with their little blasters. It's just such a funny way. It's like, this is what I expect to see at Knott's Berry Farm, which I also worked there, so I can say this. It's not quite up to Disney caliber, but it's like a really like good attempt. That's as much as I could really say positive about it. It sucks. But Buzz Lightyear, absolutely gonna put it down here near... Yeah, I'm going to the bottom tier. Yeah, it is probably better than Autopia. Literally all of my friends are probably surprised to hear me say this because I always talk about how Astro Blasters is my least favorite ride, but how can I argue with the canoes in Autopia? And then, Astro Orbiter. It goes in a circle. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I like it more than I like Dumbo. I like it less than the Submarine Voyage. Yeah, I think it goes right there between Dumbo and the Submarine Voyage. Sorry, Astro Orbiter stands, of which I'm sure there are 3 of you. The reason that I've left these 2 at the very end is because I wanted to end on a personal note for this video, because these 2 attractions are the 2 attractions that I operated when I personally worked at Disneyland. The first one being Star Tours. It's my favorite thing that I used to do as a cast member was I would stand in the Fast Pass line. At the time we had Fast Pass, not this Genie Plus thing. I would say, okay, I will let you on through here if you can tell me if it's Star Tours The Adventure Continues or The Adventures Continue without looking. You have 3 seconds. Go. But let's talk about the ride. I love and respect a lot of the operations of this ride. It's actually such a fun ride. Do I have it here? I loved working at Star Tours so much, I actually made a card game that I've been working on for a few years now, off and on, based around the operations of this ride. I'm actually trying to do this with Space Mountain as well. But just a board game that is designed around what it's simulating, what it's like to actually operate Star Tours. Because I feel like there's a lot of nuance to it that you probably wouldn't think of unless you've operated the attraction and you know. I'm geeking out a little bit about the actual operations of it, but I loved operating Star Tours. I thought it was just a blast. And I do love a ride that's kind of randomly generated. I think it's really neat to do that, and the Rebel Spy being a different person each time. I like that a lot. I don't like motion simulators. Personally, I also do not like 3D things, and so you put those two things together, I get motion sick really, really easy. I always have to take my glasses off halfway through. The only reason that it sits so high for me is just because of my personal love and connection to the ride itself. You know, with that said, I can't really rate it very highly, can I? You know what? Let's go C tier, but let's go one step above Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. That seems fair, right? If I'm gonna, rep Star Tours, I also have to take down Big Thunder Mountain with it. I've left one ride for last, and this is my favorite Disneyland attraction of all time. Space Mountain, whose real only crime is its line. They gave it an indoor section, which is really nice so that they can air condition it, but it's still in such like a desolate wasteland. But I look at the shape of the mountain, and it's just like so dynamic and interesting. Or, and I think of like the theming of it, which is absolutely no IP unless it's in Hyperspace Mountain, and doing a roller coaster in the dark, and it's this crazy efficient ride. I challenge you, watch the cast members that are operating that ride, and everyone always thinks they're all like really crabby or like old farts or something like that. It's because they're constantly stressed, because you always have to keep that ride moving, because it's very, very, very easy for the ride to break down. I won't go into specifics, but there is only a matter of seconds between that ride being up and taking 15 minutes to close it down. You want to be part of the video? Wait. Chuck? Charlie, tell him what's so great about Space Mountain. Well, like Space Meowton. He didn't like that one either. It is such a special ride to me, and also the track is really fun, really thrilling, and the music is so loud and exciting. I don't really love it during Hyperspace Mountain, but when it turns into Ghost Galaxy and they turn the ride into a horror ride but still space themed, it's really truly special. In fact, let me see if I can take this down. If you want to know how big of a fan of Space Mountain I am, this was a gift that I got from my girlfriend a couple years ago. This is the track layout of Space Mountain. This hangs above my desk. I look at it and smile every single day of my life. I genuinely also believe that it is the most exciting Disneyland attraction. It's so innovative. It's great. It's really good. I really can't put this anywhere but in my top spot. I spend so much of my time talking about operating this ride because it was just such a fantastic part of my life. It doesn't feel fair for me to put it anywhere but in that absolutely very top spot. And there we have it. The definitive, inarguable tier list of all of Disneyland. Let's see. Is there anything that feels out of place? Just looking through. Yeah. Genuinely, yeah. I can't see anything in here that feels like it's misplaced. Funnily enough, the only one I'm thinking about is the Disneyland Railroad. Probably want to move it down a peg, but nah. Let's give it. You know what? Who loved trains? Walt Disney. So this one, this one's for you, Walt, and this video is for you, viewer. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. It means so much to me, and I'm making videos every week here, and I love you. Charles, do you want to say anything to the camera? And I love you too. That's it.